always believed I had built a perfect life, or at least something close to it. When I married David, I thought I had finally found stability, love, second chance. He was everything I had wanted in a partner. Charming, successful, attentive. And with him came 2 children from his previous marriage, Emma and Jake. At first, they kept their distance, understandably wary of me, the woman stepping into their mother's place. But over time we found a rhythm. I wasn't trying to replace their mom, just to be there for them. And slowly we became a family. For the first few years things felt good. David and I worked as a team, balancing our lives between our careers and raising Emma and Jake. Dinners together, weekend trips, late-night talks. It was a life I cherished. I wanted to believe that I had finally found something real. But looking back, I see now how I had been blind. David started working late more often. At first, I didn't question it. Business meetings, last-minute calls, travel. It was all normal for a man in his position. He was successful. His work demanded his time. Or at least, that's what I told myself. The little things were easy to ignore at first. The way he angled his phone away when I walked into the room. The slight hesitation before answering a call in front of me. The vague explanations that never quite made sense when I asked about his schedule. He had always been so confident, so composed, but something had shifted. There was a distance between us now. Subtle yet undeniable. And then there was Emma. One evening, she walked into the kitchen while I was making dinner, standing silently by the counter. I could feel her eyes on me, as if she was struggling with something, trying to decide if she should speak. "Dad's been acting weird, hasn't he?" she finally said. The question caught me off guard. I turned to her, trying to read her expression, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. She hesitated, then shook her head. "Never mind. Forget I said anything." She left before I could press further, but the seed had been planted. The doubt that had been creeping in for months suddenly had weight. It wasn't just me who noticed. Kids saw it too. The next day, while folding laundry, I found a hotel receipt tucked into the pocket of David's suit jacket. The date was recent. The total was high. And his name was there, printed clearly at the top. My chest tightened. I tried to convince myself there was an explanation. Maybe it was a business dinner. Maybe a work trip. Maybe. Well, I wasn't stupid. That night, as David showered, I picked up his phone from the nightstand. I wasn't the type to invade privacy, but something in me snapped. My hands shook as I opened his messages. But there was nothing. No suspicious texts, no unknown contacts. Just work, family, friends. Normal. So, I opened his email. And there it was. A confirmation for a weekend getaway at a 5-star hotel. For 2 guests. A date that lined up perfectly with the conference he had attended. Felt sick. I locked his phone and placed it back, exactly where it had been. When he came out of the shower, he smiled at me, kissed my forehead, and told me he loved me. And for the first time in years, I didn't say it back. Days passed, and I pretended everything was normal. I went through the motions, forcing myself to smile, to laugh, to act as if I wasn't unraveling inside. But Emma and Jake saw through it. They weren't just David's kids anymore. They had become mine in every way that mattered. And they knew me too well. I caught them whispering when they thought I wasn't looking, exchanging glances at the dinner table, their concern evident. Jake, usually so detached and focused on his video games, started lingering in the kitchen when I cooked, as if he wanted to say something but didn't know how. Emma watched me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. And then one evening she broke. I was sitting on the couch, staring blankly at the television, lost in my own thoughts when she sat beside me. "I need to show you something," she said. Her voice was quiet, hesitant. Before I could respond, Jake appeared, standing beside her. And then, without another word, they grabbed my hands and pulled me up. "Come with us," Emma whispered. They led me down the hall, past their father's office, past my bedroom, until we reached Emma's room. The door closed behind us, and she pulled out her phone. "Mom," she said, and my breath caught at the word. one she had never used before. "You need to see this." And then she pressed play. The video started playing, and within seconds my stomach dropped. It wasn't just a message, not just texts or emails. It was a video. Grainy security footage from a hotel lobby. David stood there, dressed in the suit I had pressed for him that morning. His arm wrapped around a woman half his age. She leaned into him, laughing, whispering something into his ear before he kissed her. Not a quick, meaningless peck. This was intimate. Familiar. The kind of kiss meant for someone you love. The blood drained from my face. "I didn't know how to tell you," Emma whispered, her voice trembling. "We found out months ago." Jake sat on the bed, staring at the floor. "We thought maybe we were wrong. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. But..." His hands curled into fists. "It is." I couldn't breathe. My chest felt tight, like a weight was crushing me from the inside. "How did you?" My voice was barely a whisper. Emma hesitated before pulling up her phone again. More screenshots. Texts. Bank statements. "We saw him at the mall with her once," she said. "They were holding hands. He didn't see us, but we saw him." I scrolled through the messages on her screen. They weren't from David's phone but from the woman's, Jessica, his assistant. She wasn't even trying to hide it. Messages filled with plans, love notes, inside jokes. "He told her he loved her," Emma said softly. My heart shattered. I had spent years building this life, this marriage, believing in it, believing in him, and he had thrown it away so easily. Jake's voice was quiet, controlled. "He lied to all of us." A lump formed in my throat. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Emma's face crumpled. "Because we knew it would break you." Tears burned my eyes, but I forced them down. I had to be strong, at least for them. "How long?" asked. Emma bit her lip. "A year. Whole year. 12 months of deception. Of coming home to me every night and pretending everything was fine. Of sitting at the dinner table with his kids, smiling, laughing, acting like the perfect husband and father while he lived a second life behind our backs. I thought back to every moment I had questioned my instincts, every time I had brushed off that gut feeling that something was wrong. I had wanted so badly to trust him, to believe that I wasn't just another woman being played. But I was. Clenched my jaw. "I need to hear it from him." Emma and Jake exchanged a look. "We'll be there," Jake said firmly. Emma nodded. "You're not doing this alone." I exhaled shakily, gripping my hands together to stop them from trembling. I wasn't sure I wanted to face him, to hear his excuses, to watch him try to manipulate his way out of this. But I had no choice. I deserved the truth, even if it destroyed me. The house was too quiet. I sat at the dining table, my hands folded tightly in my lap, waiting. Emma and Jake sat across from me, tense but unwavering. They had already seen the worst of him. Now it was my turn. The front door opened, and footsteps echoed down the hall. David walked in, loosening his tie, oblivious. He glanced at us, his smile faltering at the sight of our expressions. "What's going on?" he asked. I took a deep breath, my voice calm but firm. "We need to talk." He hesitated, then pulled out a chair. "Okay. What about?" Emma's fingers tightened around her phone. Without a word, she turned the screen toward him. The video played. David's face drained of color. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. He didn't even try to deny it. Didn't demand to know where we got the footage or why we were going through his business. He just sat there, jaw clenched, hands resting flat on the table like he was calculating his next move. I waited for him to say something. Anything. Finally, he exhaled sharply, shaking his head. "It's not what it looks like." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Really? Because it looks like you've been cheating on me for a year." Emma's eyes burned with fury. "Dad, don't lie." Jake's voice was sharp. "We saw you. We heard you." David rubbed his face, sighing as if this was an inconvenience rather than the betrayal it was. "Look, I messed up. I messed up," I repeated. "That's what you call this?" He leaned forward. I never meant to hurt you. Something inside me snapped. But you did. And not just me. Your kids. They had to be the ones to tell me because you were too much of a coward to admit it. His eyes flicked to Emma and Jake. I didn't want you involved in this. Jake scoffed. Too late for that. David turned back to me, reaching for my hand, but I pulled away. It didn't mean anything, he said. It was just a mistake. I stared at him, disgust curling in my stomach. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something hurtful in an argument. You had a whole second relationship behind my back. That's not a mistake, David. That's a choice. His expression hardened. I was unhappy. The room went silent. Emma inhaled sharply. Jake looked away, his jaw tight. I felt like I had been slapped. Unhappy. I repeated, my voice dangerously low. So instead of talking to me, instead of trying to fix things, you decided to sneak around like a coward? He folded his arms. I didn't plan for this to happen. I shook my head, my nails digging into my palms. Of course you didn't. That would have required taking responsibility. Emma's voice wavered with rage. You told her you loved her. David flinched. His gaze flickered, guilt flashing across his face before he masked it with irritation. I was confused. I laughed, hollow and cold. Confused. You were careful. You covered your tracks. You lied to my face every single day. That's not confusion, David. That's deceit. He exhaled sharply. I didn't come home every night and fake it, all right? I still love you. Emma shook her head. No, you don't. You don't do this to people you love. Jake stood suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. I'm done. He stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Emma's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but she didn't move. She sat beside me, silent and unwavering. I looked at David, at the man I had once trusted with my heart, and saw nothing but a stranger. You don't get to pretend you're the victim, I said quietly. You don't get to sit here and act like this was some accident. You broke this family. You broke us. His eyes darkened. So what now? You want a divorce. The words tasted like finality, like relief. Yes, I said. I do. He leaned back, his face hardening. Fine. No fight. No pleading. It was fine. I nodded, standing up. Emma followed, slipping her hand into mine. David sat there, staring at the evidence of his own destruction. And for the first time in months, I felt free. The days that followed were a blur. Papers were filed, accounts were split, and arrangements were made. David didn't fight me on the divorce. He barely spoke to me at all. It was almost as if he had already moved on, as if our life together had been nothing more than a phase he had outgrown. I didn't cry. Not in front of him. Not in front of the kids. But at night, in the silence of an empty bed, the weight of it all crashed down. I had spent years building something I thought was unbreakable, only to watch it crumble in an instant. Emma and Jake saw the worst of it. They watched me go through the motions, pretending to be okay. They saw the exhaustion, the hollow look in my eyes, the way my hands shook when I thought no one was looking. But they never left my side. David packed his things within a week. No dramatic goodbyes, no desperate apologies. Just a quiet acceptance that this was over. Emma and Jake didn't say much when he left. They stood in the hallway, watching as he carried his last bag out the door. Before stepping outside, he turned to them. I'm still your father. Jake didn't respond. Emma gave him a small nod, but her eyes were cold. And then he was gone. The house felt different without him. Lighter. Quieter. For the first time in a long time I could breathe. But the damage was still there, lingering beneath the surface. The nights were the worst, when the weight of loneliness settled in. I caught myself reaching for my phone, instinctively wanting to text him, to tell him about my day, only to remember there was nothing left to say. Emma and Jake noticed. They saw the way I hesitated before answering when people asked how I was doing. They saw the moments where I got lost in thought, where my hands gripped my coffee mug just a little too tightly. One evening, Emma sat beside me on the couch, curling her legs under her. "Are you okay?" I forced a smile. "I will be." She didn't look convinced. "It's okay if you're not." Jake walked in, dropping onto the other side of the couch. "Yeah. You don't have to pretend." Something inside me cracked. The exhaustion, the pain, the anger. It was all still there, but so was something else. I wasn't alone. I reached for their hands, squeezing gently. "Thank you," I whispered. They didn't let go. Weeks passed, then months. The divorce was finalized, and David became a distant memory. I found myself again, not as someone's wife, not as someone's second choice, but as my own person. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but with each passing day, it lost its hold on me. And for the first time in years I felt whole.